For the love of... Tomomi is a hero, an elite warrior from an organization that takes down bad guys or something, and she's arrived to some bad guy's tower to rendezvous with Riko, her support for the mission. Together, the two will awkwardly fight off their one-sided sexual frustrations and maybe take down some bad guys and save the world along the way. This game is very stupid, but it knows it's stupid and leans into its stupidity with zero shame. Yet, despite its cringe, despite its paper-thin plot, despite its low-quality Flash-era art, I couldn't put this game down. Maybe it was my low expectations, but I found Tomomi to be extraordinarily fun. As a Metroidvania, it's as competent as they come. The devs genuinely created something good here, and it definitely has its combat to thank. Combat is simple, sweet, and fast, with an emphasis on fast. Tomomi's 3-hit katana combo obliterates most enemies in a flash, allowing our buxom butcher to body waves of enemies in mere seconds. Tomomi can also throw shurikens and turn into a dog, as well as do some other things I wouldn't dare spoil, and all of it can be done quickly. Her initial movement speed's pretty fast, but soon Tomomi picks up a double jump and a dash that not only opens up the map, but makes her even more speedy and deadly. And the dash is completely broken in all the right ways. It can be used in the air and has iframes against projectiles, but the best part is it can be spammed infinitely, meaning you can essentially become invincible if you get the rhythm down. This makes the game super easy, but I don't even care because dashing around is just so fun. Honestly, if this game isn't going to take itself seriously, why should I? Tomomi levels up like a traditional RPG protagonist by gaining EXP from killing enemies, but I'm not really sure what leveling does. I think it increases HP and maybe MP? Anyway, if you really want to upgrade your hero, you're going to need cash. Money drops from enemies or can be found in chests, and you can either spend it to heal yourself at vending machines or by purchasing upgrades at shops. Upgrades range from increasing stats to enlisting a sword familiar to help you fight to obtaining a force field that negates damage. There's way more to enhance, and buying these enhancements to make Tomomi stronger gets addicting. By the end of the game, you should have a ridiculous build that makes you untouchable. You'd think this would hamper the experience, but it only makes the game more fun. For a Metroidvania, exploration's a little too linear for my tastes. In fact, I can only think of maybe 3 or 4 times I needed to backtrack to progress or to find secret areas. There are plenty of hidden rooms to find along the way, usually by destroying obvious false walls, and each room gives you something useful, like cash or collectibles for instant stat increases. The map's surprisingly big, but Tomomi moves so fast you'll hardly notice. The level design's basic with nothing to write home about, but again, you'll be moving so quickly to care, especially with all the slaughtering you'll be doing. Platforming feels great, but there's nothing here that'll really test your platforming chops. Some spikes here, some lava there, and if you happen to get skewered or melted, it's not really that big of a deal because death's a minor inconvenience. No corpse running, no loss of resources. Heck, there's hardly even a loss of time as the game nearly instantly reloads at your last save, EXP and cash intact. It's like the game only cares about you having fun. It's a completely uncomfortable and foreign concept, but I promise you'll get used to it eventually. As far as the game's atmosphere goes, it's okay. You're in a tower that looks like an office building, and every biome looks the same, save for the witchy one. The game's 16-bitish aesthetic worked for me, but I can see how it could turn some people off. The real issue is the character portraits. I'm no artist, but these look bad, like they were made in MS Paint. And Tomomi's design looks ridiculous. My wife watched me play this game and laughed every time Tomomi came on screen, and she assured me that female shirts and jackets do not work that way. I'll just have to take her word for it. The music wasn't half bad. Nothing really stuck out to me as bad or good, but I remember liking the track that played during the final fight. Overall, everything meshed together pretty well except for those awkward portraits, and they were distracting. Like, there were times the two women would be talking while I was exploring, and I couldn't see anything because they took up 2/3 of the screen. The plot's barely worth mentioning. Tomomi's there to kill all the bad guys and save the day. That's really it. Most of the game's just banter and cringy sex jokes because Tomomi is the thirstiest lesbian of all time. Or maybe she's just a hopeless romantic who believes in love at first sight. She literally meets Riko for the first time and spends the entire mission trying to jump into her pants. It's childish and weird and takes a turn for the creepy when Tomomi tries to get Riko to XXX her so she can achieve super mode. Things don't get any better when you find out Tomomi's a furry who was in a dom-sub relationship with one of the game's villains. Even though I didn't find the game's humor funny, I at least appreciated its lightness and was willing to ignore the cringiness because the gameplay was so spot on. Matter of fact, I enjoyed the game so much that I played through it twice in one sitting. Turns out, it's the perfect game to play on a lazy Saturday instead of mowing your lawn like a responsible adult should. The first playthrough took me about 3 hours, and I'd say 45 minutes of that was me farming this one spot for cash so I could buy everything in the shop. My second playthrough was like an hour and a half, and that's because I found 2 hidden areas I missed my first go round. One of these areas I like to call the Cursed Elevator because it had so many enemies that the frame rate nearly tanked. I didn't intend to play through the game twice, but I was having so much fun, and the game offered a new game plus that lets you start with all your in-game stats and abilities. They also mixed up enemy placement, made enemies stronger, and added brand new enemies. Not only that, but bosses behaved differently and had brand new attacks. The final boss even had a brand new second form. Overall, the second playthrough was a pleasant surprise, and I'm glad I did it because I'd have missed out on so much. The only drawback was how they shuttered off areas so you couldn't sequence break, but that's not that big a deal really. In the end, would I recommend Tomomi? Wholeheartedly. It's light, it's short, and its combat and progression system keeps you hooked and engaged. If not for its cringe dialogue and inconsequential plot, I'd say Tomomi is a great beginner Metroidvania. That being said, Metroidvania vets who want something to play between better Metroidvanias should check this game out. Don't let its terrible game art fool you. Underneath Tomomi's amateurish veneer lies a competent and enjoyable Metroidvania.